The CEOs of America's biggest banks finished up their second day of testimony on Capitol Hill. One of the more compelling exchanges happened yesterday between Congresswoman Tlaib of Michigan and JPM Chairman and CEO Jamie Dimon. Representative Tlaib wanted to know if, in an effort to combat climate change, these CEOs would commit to stop lending money to oil and gas companies.
Does your bank have a policy against funding new oil and gas products, Mr. Dimon?
Absolutely not, and that would be the road to hell for America.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. Sir, you know what? Everybody that got relief from student loans has a bank account with your bank should probably take out their account and close their account. The fact that you're not even there to help relieve many of the folks that are in debt, extreme debt because of student loan debt, and you're out there criticizing it.
So is this whole ESG discussion gone too far? Here to weigh in is Tariq Fancy, the former BlackRock CIO of Sustainable Investing and founder of Rumi. Tariq, great to have you with us and great to get your take on this. ESG started out with many, many good intentions. The conversation has gone very far at this point, to the point where we have this Congresswoman challenging Jamie Dimon, saying you should stop funding oil and gas investments. What's your take on where we are right now with ESG?
Well, I'd say I don't know that what she was saying I would constitute as being ESG. I think the Congresswoman means well in the sense that she's trying to address climate change. Unfortunately, there's no reason to believe that, closing your account at JPM is going to lower emissions, right? First of all, they'll need to take enough pain from a marketing and PR perspective that it's greater than the profit on that lending book. And then that takes a long time. And number two, even if they did get to that point, they'll sell that business to someone else. There's a lot of other banks out there. The shadow banking sector is over 100 trillion. And so, we're just moving stuff around, but I don't think it really changes the emissions profile.
How do you think what has gone on with energy prices and energy as an investment, finally a winning investment here in ESG investing? I mean, do you think that challenges this movement in any way?
On some level, yes, but I mean, the challenge about ESG as practiced so far is it's generally marketing, right? It's marketing, it's non-binding marketing promises. It's a bunch of products that kind of rearrange things that already exist, like publicly traded shares, because you can basically segment the market and charge higher for a commoditized, public markets product to green people. And in fact, I mean, it's such successful marketing. We're seeing them right now doing their own version, right? Anti-ESG funds. It almost kind of reminds me of Starbucks and Black Rifle Coffee, if you've seen the new coffee brand with a machine gun in their logo, right? It's issues are getting polarized, and for commoditized products, people will try to buy the one that aligns with their values. And that seems to be what's going on with ESG and anti-ESG. But it's not clear that changes the underlying system. It's really just the status quo, presented differently.
Mr. Fancy, which I wanted to say because it's such a good name. Do you think that the pendulum seems to be is just starting to swing of pushback against ESG, what we think of as ESG investing? Do you think we're going to see the pendulum continue to swing further?
I think so. I mean, it's hard to escape the fact that it's now entered this sort of U.S. political discourse, which tends to look like, WWF wrestling from the 90s. It's not clear that, even in that discussion, it's not clear that anyone's really talking about what happens in banking, right? I mean, the Congresswoman probably doesn't understand the market system well enough to know that if JP doesn't do it, someone else probably will, right? That's exactly how the market system is designed to operate. But I also think that JP and the leaders in the financial services industry have done us a disservice by not saying that. By not saying that, listen, if you stop us doing it, someone else will do it. So really, you need a systemic solution, and that's going to require, government to change incentives so that the whole system moves in a direction. I think ESG is unfortunately masquerading as businesses' answer to these issues, and it just destroys public faith because every year ESG assets and sustainable increases, and it somehow increases alongside carbon emissions and inequality. Because again, the idea of ESG was that it was supposed to be good for the investing returns, good for the planet, and good for asset managers. Spoiler alert, only one of those has happened so far, and it's not the first two.
Tariq, it's great to get your take on this. Hope to have you back. Tariq Fancy of Rumi. Not to mention, not funding fossil fuels, BK, is terrible when it comes to the energy security of the United States. I mean, if we have learned one thing out of Russia's invasion into Ukraine and what's going on in Europe, that is you need a portfolio of energy resources.
Precisely. And I would love it if somebody in the government, Congress or whatever, from both sides would have a rational discussion and just say, hey, we want to get away from fossil fuels, whether it's climate change or you like the idea of smelling corn chips coming out your tailpipe. I don't care. But here's the path to it. Let's just not cut off our oil supply at first and put itself at risk. Let's have that path, and whatever it is, have a clear path, and let's fund that. But instead, we get this infighting and we end up here today.
Yeah. I think it is very important to underscore what Tariq said, and that is it is only good for one party involved in ESG, and that is the asset managers. Having been, the CIO of sustainable investing at BlackRock, that's really telling, and that really shows you that you should understand what you're buying and what you're buying into.
Yeah, and I think that's a big lesson. I mean, there is a silver lining of this whole discussion, and I think the way you framed it, Mel, is pretty good. It's kind of gone off the rails on both sides. Like on one side, we have a group of people who don't believe in climate change. On the other side, we have people demonizing a bank that's trying to do a whole heck of a lot of things, one of the largest banks in the world, and they don't really kind of want to be in the middle of a political argument here. And so when you think about investors, and I think this is what the congressperson was trying to get at here, is like if you care about those sorts of issues, you know what I mean, then speak with your wallet in a way. And that is, I think, the mantra, the ethos of this ESG movement. It just seems to be that it's gone off the rails. And your point about this, I think it's become really apparent, especially if you live in Europe. But energy as a point of national security, that is something that probably, it doesn't trump climate issues, but it does kind of should insist, we should be really focused on finding some stuff like BK just said, where we can really have intelligent conversations and figure it out.